Well, welcome. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Gosford, actually. The Jehovah's Witnesses. The funny part at the moment is we aren't seeing the Jehovah's Witnesses showing up out here at the moment, which is really safe for the community. You don't want cults running around trying to infiltrate the community with their propaganda and evil, devious ways. I tried to find a word that would give a stronger contribution to the theological and spiritual abuse involved in the Jehovah's Witness religion, but the best word for it really is abuse. Spiritual, theological, which then leads to the domestic constructs of that, including child sexual abuse, which a lot of it takes place inside the meetings, or the pedophiles use their access in the organisation there to get to these children, and they do. I encourage you to look up on YouTube the Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah's Witnesses. The Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah's Witnesses, where the whole commission is on you. I tell you what, it's some of the most exciting viewing I've ever seen as to how evil is stubborn, vigilant and diligent in having its way, in demanding that it's right, and using its spirituality and the evil thereof to obstruct the law, its religious authority to obstruct the law. The Australian Royal Commission into the Jehovah's Witnesses. I think every person that talks about the Jehovah's Witnesses on YouTube should remind people, go to the Australian Royal Commission on the Jehovah's Witnesses. If you want to know what the Jehovah's Witnesses is about, mate, will you have your tail between your legs after watching that? The evil, the lies. They call it theocratic warfare, where they think they're allowed to lie to protect themselves. Oh, it's disgraceful. There's a woman called Applegate. She represented the Catholic Church in a royal commission against them, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, who apparently think Catholics are evil, and to some extent they are, looked up Applegate, Dr. Applegate, this woman, and hired her to represent them at the Australian Royal Commission. And Applegate lied for the Jehovah's Witnesses and got caught, and she later got in trouble herself. These are the reprobates that the Jehovah's Witnesses are. I don't care how kind and all the rest of it these families make out they are. If you stayed behind closed doors long enough, I guarantee, if you were a fly on the wall, you would have the police round to these places in the blink of an eye, because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. The world is deteriorating in its behavior at the most rapid rate in history. The Jehovah's Witnesses, in the religious sense, are at the forefront of this. The organisation is collapsing before the eyes of the world, for those that watch it. The governing body members are now, one of them's being accused to be a rapist. He's been fired. Anthony Morris III, I'm not saying that he is, but we'll find out. They're after him, his victims. And you can't blame them. I had a girlfriend that was sexually molested as a child, and she was determined to get this bloke. But the problem is, by the time the law does catch up with them and get them, they're old. They're 70, 80 year old. They've had their life, and that's sad for the victims. But they do get them, and they do make them pay. Look at Rolf Harris, Jimmy Savile, Bill Cosby, and these other pedophiles that use their position to influence and tamper with and abuse young children. The Jehovah's Witnesses were in trouble from the start, and I know I end up back here, but you have to go back to the foundations of something to understand how corrupted and evil it really is. When in 1914 the hype and the anticipation of the world ending caused the... Good on you, mate. You're one of the good ones. You're outside in the sun. When you look back, oh, he's on, look. Oh. When you get to Dad's age, you'll look back and you'll go, I'm so glad Dad took me fishing. Oh, Uncle, whatever the case, you'll fall back on this, son. Best days of your life. Good on you, Uncle. And so, with their policies, the shunning policy, if you don't conform, we will ostracize you. In the Australian Royal Commission, the judge, oh, beautiful man. What was his name? Sorry, Judge. Oh, gee, he was a beautiful man. And the Counselor Assist, they try and get through to the Jehovah's Witnesses that shunning people does no good for anybody, because what it does is, if a family member wakes up to the deception and the destruction of the organisation, they get shunned, they get isolated from the organisation, and their family will isolate them just like the organisation has isolated them, and they end up psychologically maimed because all the people that they love and care for have now turned and said, no, we no, you're not conforming to the cult, and they get punished. Another one of their policies is the 2-witness rule. Mum, that man over there, he put his hand down my pants. Are you sure about that? Who else saw it? If nobody else saw it, that little child. And I've heard this in the domestic levels too, where children have come to their mothers or their fathers and said, Uncle so-and-so has, you know, touched my private, and the parents won't believe it. They go into denial. This is what the 2-witness rule prides itself on. It prides itself on not allowing justice to be done. There's no reports made, and the little child's just left to try and understand why nobody's helping them. I've had a girlfriend like this. It was terrible. Hers was a domestic matter, but it was horrible to see what it had done to her, and how nobody had listened until this part of her life, you know, where she's in her 50s and trying to sort out and get some kind of justice for the way in which the harm that was done to her by an uncle had put her life on a path that wasn't really the one that God had planned for. She'd been damaged by the devil's ways. And not voluntarily, and that's sad. It's no different to the Jews being put in a train and sent to Auschwitz. This is the damage that the cult does. And another one is the blood policy. My sister works at the hospital and she's gone, you've got no idea how determined the HLC teams are from the Jehovah's Witnesses that go up to the hospital if somebody needs to have a transfusion, how determined they are to make these people not have the transfusion by way of presenting themselves to be loyal and devoted to Jehovah. And it's not right. These people die. They actually die. And when this all comes out and the law realizes that it's not theologically correct, as a matter of fact, it's just a fable. These people are given their lives for a fable. I think there's going to be people running left, right and centre if it ever happens. You see, the law's got an element of blindness towards the assumption that religion doesn't do evil.